Welcome back to the PFF NFL show. Trevor Sikkema, that's Seth Galina, here for another quarterback showcase episode of the channel. Today we're talking about three good quarterbacks. We're going to talk about how good they are. Where are they in the echelon of quarterback rankings? How much can we really put on their plate? Are they MVP candidates? The Anthony Richardson absolute revenge tour that we're seeing. Richardson's one of them, the guys that we're going to talk about here. But we're also going to talk about Jared Goff. A couple of up and down weeks for Jared Goff, okay? How valuable is he in that offense? How much is he a part of what makes that offense go? How much responsibility does he deserve to get? And we're going to talk about Josh Allen because it feels like there is nothing that man can't do after taking down the Kansas City Chiefs now and there being no unbeaten teams left in the NFL. Seth, how you doing today, my friend?
Great. Fantastic. Looking forward to talking ball with you. Sorry, that's not
I was going to say, I believe you. I believe you. If you say it one more time, I don't remember what that reference is, but it's like, if you say it one more time, I'll believe you. No. I genuinely am as well, because we're talking about three guys that have been polarizing throughout their careers, two guys that I think are quite polarizing right now, but I want to start with the guy that it's not really polarizing anymore. Anybody who doesn't think that Josh Allen's good is wrong. There's not many universal truths in this world. There's not a lot of black and white. A lot of life is gray, but there is very clearly a right and a wrong. If you think that Josh Allen is bad, you're just wrong, because after this past week against the Kansas City Chiefs, I understand it's at home. You're feeling it. The home field advantage kind of cooked into this one a little bit, but you took down the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm not doing anything to take away from him in this performance. 27 for 40, 262 yards. He had a touchdown and interception, also had 55 yards on the ground, led the team in rushing. Allen was responsible for 317 of the team's 366 yards, and he had 5 big-time throws, 0 turnover-worthy plays. It was a masterful performance by Josh Allen. And Seth, the question that I want to ask you is not like, oh man, is Josh Allen good? To me, I think the bigger question.
Sorry, no, please ask me that question.
Okay,
so
all right.
I want to get off the hook as easy as possible.
Okay, first of all, is Josh Allen good?
Yes. Next question.
Okay, all right. So now that we got that out of the way and people can't come for you, essentially, how good is he? Because going into the season, I had some doubts about this Buffalo Bills team overall. And when I looked at this offense in particular, I said, all right, it's certainly not the worst offense in the NFL. I want to be very clear there. But in terms of where the Buffalo Bills wanted to go, making a deep playoff run, getting over the hump for the Super Bowl, obviously winning this division in what was supposed to be a tough division, and certainly turning out to be easier than we thought, because the Jets are bad. And the Miami Dolphins, well, at the beginning of the season were bad. Is there ever something or a situation for Josh Allen where there's too much on his plate? Because that's what I thought going into the year. I thought, no, okay, the Buffalo Bills are going to take a step back because it's too much. It's too much for Josh Allen. I don't doubt how good Allen is, but I felt like this situation for the Buffalo Bills was not ideal enough. That situation is better than I thought, admittedly. They're playing better than I thought they would, admittedly. But Josh Allen is also just elevating to a level we have never seen before. Is there ever going to be a situation where it's just too much for Josh Allen, or is he just this superhuman, and we have to understand that about him?
Yeah, I mean, he's superhuman. I think the supporting cast that will probably continue to get better as Amari Cooper gets healthier and more integrated into the offense. It is obviously wasn't like that at the beginning of the season, but I think the O-line gelled in a really good way this season. You do have some good bookend pieces in Spencer Brown and Deion Dawkins. And I think with Shakir kind of like being a super useful player, that was enough to a certain degree for Josh Allen to work with. And now but they didn't have an outside kind of X-type receiver. And like I said, they're trying to integrate Amari Cooper into the offense. You saw 2 sick plays where he was able to go up one-on-one down the sideline. One was a double move, but, both of them were over-the-shoulder catches where he, especially the second one on the sluggo, where he has to make an incredible adjustment to track the ball and bring it in and get both feet in. So I think that is the thing that's going to elevate them the most, is just that outside receiver play, because they really don't have anyone like that. They came in the season thinking it was going to be Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Turns out Marquez Valdes-Scantling is actually the best receiver in the league. It just it's happening for the New Orleans Saints. But
I mean, the numbers support that argument. You're correct, actually. Rashid Shaheed, who needs him? Chris Olave, never heard of him.
Insane. The best receiver that's ever lived. And it's whatever. Anyways, I have a whole thing of Marcus Valdes-Scantling MVS stats that I won't bring up now, but so yeah, that's kind of the thing with Allen, and I think the thing with the Bills offense, but I think with Allen, I'll just never not think that the floor is so damn high when Allen is playing quarterback, and especially in big games.
Yeah,
in games where the defense can take away like a first read type of situation. And we've seen games where the defense really hasn't taken away their first read, or they've dialed up some really good explosive plays to get guys open. Like a one read situation where like, this is the guy we're going to get open, and if he's not there, we're kind of screwed, but he gets open. And they've been a great offense when that's happened, obviously. But you play against the Chiefs, and like with Trent McDuffie, they can take away a first read, right? The Trent McDuffie is that good of a cornerback, and still they go out there and they're able to. Now, this is a Chiefs pass defense that hasn't been great since Jalen Watson went down, but at the same time, like Allen's going through his reads. There's not a lot of like open, like easy open stuff early in the play, and Allen is still able to kind of go through his reads. And obviously we know his ability to run the football. It's not like they use him so much, if I'm not mistaken, as like a design runner. This game was like the scrambles where he's deadly and won the game on a scramble. And I think that's where the floor is just so high. And you're really hoping, like we've seen Amari Cooper be the focal point and the carrier of an offense. That was like the Joe Flacco led Cleveland Browns last season, was really just the actually Amari Cooper led Cleveland Browns. And they're at the point where, like you said, like this division is stinky. You're winning the division. You're now with this win against the Chiefs, you're thinking, hey, maybe we get a bye week, and you have time now to. I keep going back to this, but you have time now to get Allen and Cooper on the same page. Because you just keep winning games and you're getting close to the bye week. So that's kind of where I am with this offense. It always is going to have the upper echelon ceiling, and the floor is just so high because Josh Allen doesn't make a ton of mistakes.
Building off of sort of what you just said, the 1 seed all of a sudden is really, really important for the Buffalo Bills. And it's not that I'm saying that they can't win on the road. This team is capable of winning on the road. They've shown that already this season, 11 weeks in. But Allen becoming this version of the player when they're at home is just like, that's something where I'm not saying they can't win on the road, but it's really hard to beat the Bills, certainly right now, with Josh Allen playing the way that he is when they are at home. They're undefeated at home so far this season. They're 5-0. Josh Allen's 2 highest graded passing grades have come at home this season. His lowest grade has come when he's been on the road. And there have been a couple of good road games as well. Again, I'm not trying to say that it's night and day. That's not my point. But it felt as though, maybe even 2-3 weeks ago, the 1 seed was just going to go to the Kansas City Chiefs, and maybe the Kansas City Chiefs do end up getting the 1 seed when it's all said and done. But now the Buffalo Bills have the tiebreaker over them, and they're basically right there when it comes to record. The Chiefs are sitting there at 9-1, the Bills are sitting there at 9-2. So they're basically neck and neck with where the Kansas City Chiefs are, and if they tie, it's going to go to Buffalo. And I think a lot of people talk about, if you get the bye week's obviously really important. You get an extra week to heal up and rest. That is important. To me, though, for Buffalo, the confidence that this team plays with when they are at home this season has been a difference maker. And for as much as Buffalo's expectations from the general media, myself, hand up, was maybe less this year than it was in previous seasons, they're still clearly trying to win a Super Bowl, and they're still on that track. And I think them getting the 1 seed is huge. I don't think I could bet against this team if they have home field advantage throughout the playoffs. Certainly, it would have to take a couple of night and day performances from what we have seen from Buffalo so far this year, but I just don't feel like we're going to get that because, like you said, it's hard to not believe in this team when you see them go. I mean, it's not just Amari Cooper either. I think Curtis Samuel's playing with more juice as well. They're getting the tight ends involved in a better way. Khalil Shakir, he has evolved from, he's not just this like slot receiver, and that was sort of my projection for him going into the season. It's like, all right, well, I like him when you give him the two-way goes, when he's in the slot. I don't really know how valuable he'd be outside the numbers, but they're not only using him outside the numbers in the slot, they'll use him out of the backfield. They'll motion him into the backfield. They're extremely willing to be as creative as they can with all of their wide receiver pieces. And to me, that's a telltale sign of an offense that's really humming, that has a ton of confidence in their quarterback. And so to me, home field advantage for the Buffalo Bills is now becoming paramount. Because it is such a force multiplier for how well they are playing. How do you beat Josh Allen the way that he's playing right now if he's at home? It's so hard for me to predict that anybody in the AFC, even the Kansas City Chiefs, would be able to do that if a playoff game were to be in Buffalo. So to me, it's just they're on a road to the 1 seed, and they kind of need to get the 1 seed because if they do, they become almost unstoppable in my opinion.
Here's my pushback against that, because this is the issue. Like, I agree. Like, when I look at how many quarterbacks could go into a game in Buffalo weather in January and have a game, like, because it is a good defense, right? You know, their defense, the Buffalo defense is a defense that is like probably better than the individual pieces. They're like a good unit, communicate well. They don't allow a lot of big explosive plays. They make you work the field, and then they rally and tackle really well. But like, of all the quarterbacks in the league, how many of them could go into a windy Buffalo, New York, Western New York, January day or night even, and have a day? First one is Josh Allen, and he plays for your team, so that's good.
That's good. That's good.
The issue is the other ones are they're all in the AFC, and they're all gonna be in the playoffs. Like, Patrick Mahomes can go and do that. He has won a playoff game there. Mm-hmm. You know, Lamar Jackson playing this year, I know he has played there before, but like this kind of Lamar Jackson that we're seeing right now can go there and do that. Justin Herbert can go there and fight through the wind as good as Josh Allen can. So like, that's going to be the issue, is like, yeah, like if you get a Bo Nix or like a Russell Wilson who maybe doesn't have that, you know, Stroud is in there too, as a potentially good quarterback, though that Texans team doesn't have the magic this year. I think that's pretty clear. Like that's where I get nervous. It's just going to be the quarterback. And this is true for everyone, right? Like, we've seen, like, there's just the top quarterbacks in this league, guys who can win you a game by themselves, are all in the AFC. And it's too bad, because like, we're going to get a situation where one of these guys is going to be the Dan Marino, whether it's, you know, it's not Mahomes, obviously he has the Super Bowls, but maybe it's Allen, maybe it's Lamar, maybe it's Justin Herbert, where they're just clearly an elite quarterback every year, and then there's just stuff that happens in the playoffs. And I understand winning the playoffs is supposed to be important, and yeah, sure, but it's also like there's a lot of luck involved, and a lot of weird stuff happens in the playoffs. So it's just too bad. But that's kind of my concern about teams coming into Buffalo, is like, there's 4 quarterbacks in the league that I would pick to win a game in a windy situation, a cold, windy situation, and they all play in the AFC, and they're all going to be in the playoffs.
Yeah, no, it's the Dan Marino comp is a tough one, but you're right. There's so many great quarterbacks, and only one can win it every single year, so you only get so long where you have a prime in your career. I'm not saying that it would make the road easy. I do agree with you. There's great quarterbacks in the AFC, but
no, I won't say like, hey, just go and be the 7th seed and go through the play. I'm not saying that.
Just go into Buffalo like real casually. Yeah. I know. I understand where you're coming from, though. There are quarterbacks that are capable of doing it, but it is hard for me to, the very first quarterback that you listed on that list, you were like, Josh Allen, and he plays for your team, thankfully. It's hard for me to, even those great quarterbacks, for the way that Buffalo is playing, how well they're playing right now, how well Josh Allen is playing right now, it's hard for me to imagine somebody going into Buffalo in January and beating them the way that he is playing the game right now. So that, to me, is the storyline of, with this win against the Chiefs, not only just did they knock the Chiefs off from an undefeated season, you now own the tiebreaker for a number one seed that becomes really, really important for you. Because if you can get it, I think you got a really good, strong a really strong case. Tried to do case and chance, ended up going with case there, to get to the Super Bowl in New Orleans when it's all said and done. Before we get to our next guy, I do want to talk about one of those guys that has the arm strength to do it. Maybe not the consistency, although this was a good past week with Anthony Richardson. Before we get to that, though, the staple part of an outfit, it's always the hat. It's the right hats. When you have the right hat. And Melon, they're the right hats. I absolutely love these things. The second I pick them up, the second I put it on my head, it's comfortable, it's structured. You know that it's worth what you paid for. It's durable. It's going to last through all different situations. I got a couple of them. One I have for a workout, so anytime I'm going for a run, anytime I'm going to the gym, whatever, I'm using that as my workout hat. And really, I wouldn't even have to, because I've been through so many workouts, so many runs with this hat already. It doesn't smell. It's not like the sweat stays in there. You know, the rain, there's one time when I was running through the rain and I had one of these on, like the rain doesn't get like soaked up in there. And again, like it just doesn't smell. It's a really well-made hat for an active lifestyle. As you can see, if you're watching on the screen right now, they got a lot of different styles that can actually cater to exactly what you need from one of these hats. But it's really that durability. It's that structure. When you pick it up, when you put it on your head, you feel good about having the hat. You know that it's not gonna go all over the place. It's gonna stay in structure. It basically looks the way that you unboxed it. It's gonna look like that for months, maybe even a year. I haven't had mine for over a year, but I think it's gonna be pretty dang close to how it was when it was outside the box. They've also got a lot of different, like I said, sort of like catered hats. They've got a thermal hat. It's becoming winter. It's getting a little bit colder. You guys can check that out. They got a hydro collection, the ones that are for more like, okay, well, you know, if you're again super active, if you're jumping in a lake, if you're jumping in a pool, something like that, these are the hats that are going to be able to hold up with a lot of water. So whatever you're looking for with a hat, whatever purpose you have, they've got the quality and the durability for you. So check them out, Melin, MELIN.com. These hats are the best. You can put them to the test for yourself. It is the world's most durable hat. Go check them out, MELIN.com. Anthony Richardson this past week named the starting quarterback once again after the Joe Flacco experience. What a wonderful 2 weeks that was. Richardson in this game against the Jets, 28-27, major comeback win, really good fourth quarter, really good final drive here. 20 for 30 in this game, 227 passing yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. He also had 32 yards on the ground. As you can see there on the screen, 88.5 adjusted completion percentage, highest single game completion percentage of his career. What did you think about Anthony Richardson? I'll dive into the sort of the final drive and the final quarter a little bit with them becoming victorious in this game, but just overall your thoughts on Richardson learning his lesson, I guess, some self-reflecting after being put on the bench. What do you think, Seth?
Well, first of all, let's pat ourselves on the back and say that when we talked about the Joe Flacco experience 2 weeks ago, we said, both of us were like, why? Like, what's the point of this?
No point.
And it was bad. And it was like predictably bad. Like I just, all the numbers, all the tape told you that Joe Flacco was not an elite quarterback, not even close to an elite quarterback, below average quarterback. And so this was predictable. And so you have Anthony Richardson who comes back and kind of does the, for where he is in his career, the high end version of what he is right now. There's still some misses. There's still some like maddening misses, and like you're like, is your like brain connected to your arm sometimes? Like, are you seeing where the receiver is? Like, it's crazy. And then there's such high end throws, and I think we're gonna go back to the same stuff we talked about when he got benched, which is just like he doesn't take sacks, a lot of sacks. He's able to throw the ball in compromised situations, which he did. I mean, there's the one he throws in the flat to Josh Downs where he's being knocked over basically, and Josh Downs is able to like get the ball easily and make a move and get a first down. But there's also ones where the pocket's collapsing and he's throwing like a 10 to 19 yard in that intermediate range, like crossing route or some sort of horizontal route, which is one of the things that we said was really bad. Like he had massive issues throwing to guys who are running across like horizontally and keeping them in stride. And he was a lot better. Like he wasn't missing. I'm not saying he was throwing to everyone in stride perfectly, but at the same time, he wasn't missing like he has before. And that's a big, that to me is a big thing. And like Shane Steichen's going to put together a good offensive game plan. Love Shane Steichen. He's done it with a bunch of different quarterbacks now and a bunch of different teams. Like he can do it. And so if you just get like that tick more accuracy, which is what we saw against the Jets. Now the Jets are a zombie defense. They're a zombie team right now. Like that is a team that doesn't want to be there anymore. But with that said, like Richardson proved that there's a path here. I'm not saying he's there yet, but there is a real path here that we didn't need to not see for 2 weeks, right? Like we didn't need to see Flacco for 2 weeks. And now we're back, and I don't know if this is a potentially a playoff team. They're sitting there on the bubble right now.
They got a chance to get in. I think that a lot of people look at the AFC right now and they go, okay, well, with the Bengals done, the AFC is basically locked. Like the teams that are in the hunt in the AFC, those are the ones who are going to make it. I don't. Maybe most likely to make it, but the Colts are only one game back of the Broncos. And for as good as the Broncos are playing, obviously, it's not like I think the Broncos are going to win out. So they're going to be ups and downs for the Broncos. And if the Colts can get hot a little bit here down the stretch, like I think the Colts have a chance to be one of these wild card teams. I do.
Yeah, and then I would just love to see that. Like, let's put this guy in some tough situations. A playoff push and then potentially a playoff game or multiple playoff games. We'll see. I would just like to see that and see where if that can unlock some more. He needs to just put together some good games in a row. He's got to put together some good accuracy games in a row. I think again that goes by the same thing. I'm not saying he's making the great decision on every play. That'll come. It's just for me the accuracy has to be something that we can hang our hat on, and it hadn't been there, and it was just like legitimately one of his better games in terms of accuracy that we've seen in his career.
Yes. No, 100% it was. And, when I looked at Richardson and when we were talking about when he got benched, I used the phrase, it feels like you're stepping over $100 bills to pick up singles. Like, that's what it felt like with Joe Flacco. Like, I guess, again, unless the locker room stuff was why you benched him, like unless like the offensive line came to you in a private meeting and said, get this guy out of here. Like he's not tough enough. He's not mentally tough enough. He's not physically tough enough. We're not going to battle with him. Unless that happened, the whole Flacco back and forth was very strange because I think there were a lot of people out there who look at Anthony Richardson and look at how inconsistent he is right now and have said and would say, no, Joe Flacco's the better quarterback. Start the better quarterback. You go start Joe Flacco. It's games like this one against the New York Jets. And everybody can say whatever they want about how the Jets aren't the defense that we thought that they were going to be going into the season. The Jets being bad doesn't take away the throws that Richardson made. The tight window throws, the good decisions, like all of this stuff. Like the tight window throws and everything is like, oh, okay, like the Jets are bad. If there's a defensive back that's still hanging over you and you're making a tight throw, hitting a football through a football-sized hole, like that doesn't take away from it. Just because the Jets haven't been a great defense this year doesn't mean that individual play was bad. Now, I'm not trying to be too much of an overly eager Anthony Richardson defender, but there were multiple plays in this past game where, just like you said, it's the off-script stuff where first quarter, for example, there's a 1st and 10 situation where Michael Pittman Jr. is running a, it's not quite, it's like a deep over route, like a deep crosser essentially in between the linebacker level and the safety level. The Jets are playing cover 3, so it's closed coverage. There's a safety right in the middle of the field, and he's got to layer it in between where the linebacker is and where that single high safety is over the middle of the field. He gets pressure in his face right up the middle, and he doesn't even really get to complete his drop back, and off of his back foot he just flicks it on a frozen rope straight to Michael Pittman Jr.'s hands right beyond where the linebacker was, and with enough velocity to get there before the safety recognized it to come up and lay a hit on Pittman Jr. Pittman Jr. gets hit kind of right after he catches the ball, but there's no play on the ball to be made because because he is that type of a talent. Joe Flacco is not doing that for you. You could have felt better maybe that the offense was going to be a little bit more on script, that he was going to be a little bit more accurate of a quarterback, but you would take so much of a diminishing return on not having those explosive plays, not having that athletic ability to be able to make those kinds of throws off platform and when things aren't ideal. And that to me is so valuable with Anthony Richardson. He's barely been a starter in the NFL. He started 4 games last year, and then it was a handful of games this year. He even missed some time this year. So the judgment on Richardson to me is crazy. Like, a lot of people felt as though, if you start Joe Flacco, you're guaranteed to make the playoffs. One, who cares anyways? You're making the playoffs in the wild card round, and then you're getting bounced by the Chiefs in the first round. Who cares? You're trying to win a Super Bowl one day. You drafted this guy number 4 overall. You're trying to unlock your franchise quarterback. The conversation was just insane to me, and I loved what I saw in this game because, the Colts are down going into the last drive of the game, all right? Last drive of the game for Anthony Richardson, 3 for 3, 60 yards passing, 91.2 passing grade. Fourth quarter overall, last quarter for Anthony Richardson, 8 of 10, 129 passing yards. He had his big-time throw in the fourth quarter and a 91.3 passing grade. That was fantastic. Now, to quote my co-host, Dalton Wasserman from the Grades Release Show, he said, "Hey, I used to say this to my players when I was coaching. Great job. Do it again." And that consistency is obviously where we are with Anthony Richardson. That's what we want to see. We want to see him do it again. But it is games like this, it is performances like this that are why you have to keep starting him. Because right before we started recording the show, you said yourself, there's a great quarterback in there somewhere. Now, whether or not we can reel it out of him consistently, that's to be seen. But you have that potential. So much of this league is up to chance. We talk about that with the NFL draft all the time. There's no sure things. There's no, I draft this guy. And a phrase that I hate probably the most when it comes to draft cliches is, you draft this guy and you won't have to worry about that position for the next 10 years. When is that ever the case? 10 years? Come on. You'd be lucky to get one contract out of these guys. And so it's just, again, when you have a player that has the potential that Anthony Richardson does, you don't give up on it. And this week was a reminder, and it was a cool reminder, and I'm glad he was able to come out and really hit the ground running after not being in the starting lineup because he's fun. Because this is a fun quarterback to watch. And I'd love for him to keep playing well because I enjoy watching him. So there you go. There's my Richardson rant.
That's the thing. That's the main thing. I want to see this guy play every week because there's something great that happens. There's 3 crazy, insane plays that happen every time Richardson plays. So I want to see that. I'm not a Colts fan, so I could be like, I want to see those 3 crazy plays and then them lose. I don't care whether they win or lose.
We just talked about Josh Allen, right?
Yeah.
Why would we not give a quarterback who is of Josh Allen's archetype the chance to be Josh Allen?
That's the point. Because you can't. Josh Allen gives you a chance to win a Super Bowl every single season, like Mahomes, like Justin Herbert, like Burrow. I mean, there's a lot of contextual factors here, like Lamar. And I know only one of those guys have won a Super Bowl of them mentioned, but trust me, these guys give you a chance to win a Super Bowl every year. And when you have the middle-class quarterback who gets propped up by a great supporting cast or a great offensive coordinator, and we've seen that time and time again, eventually the wheels fall off. And eventually, can you go in with that type of quarterback and win 4 straight games or 3 straight games and a Super Bowl in the playoffs and do it every single year, be in that conversation every single year? It's really, really hard. And a guy like Anthony Richardson gives you that ability if he hits. And the thing is, if he doesn't hit, there's a lot of guys out there. Like Shane Steichen almost took Gardner Minshew to the playoffs last year. There's guys out there who you can just get the job done with. But if Anthony Richardson hits, that's the guy you want. So you always have to take your chances on this guy.
That's why I don't understand. I think people just like want to be right about their draft priors, which is okay. Like I think
which is 100% true.
Right. And like I do that all the time as a draft analyst. So people are wanting to be right about Anthony Richardson's draft priors and they go like, "Oh, see, like I told you he was bad. Get him out of there." Why would you do that? Why would the Colts do that? That's completely counterproductive. He is a quarterback who gives you a massive ceiling. And here's the thing. If you give him the ample amount of time and he does not prove worth it for you, you go draft another one. But what is changing him for Joe Flacco or anything like that? That was the thing. It's, again, if we go back to like, okay, he tapped himself out and the team was pissed about it and you sort of like had to bench him almost as like a life lesson type of a thing, like a quarterback lesson, like being a leader type of a lesson. I actually get that point. It's the people who are like, okay, finally, good, they benched him. He's bad. Come on. What are we doing? Josh Allen's right there. He had 2 bad years in the NFL before he became an unstoppable elite quarterback, which he has been ever since. Anthony Richardson actually gives you that prototype. It's actually the same blueprint. Why wouldn't you try to see if he's going to strike gold? And the thing is, if he doesn't at the end of his rookie year, you draft another one. Who cares? Why are you trying to give him the early hook? What does it matter? Just so you can tell yourself you're right? Whatever. Anyways, rant over. We talk about Anthony Richardson so much. I feel like I just go in circles about all that. But speaking of
there's only 32 teams in this league, so we talk in circles.
That's true. That is very true. That is very true. Speaking of alien quarterbacks, Jared Goff, who we're talking about next. No, but we are gonna talk about Goff and how valuable he is in what feels like one of the best offenses in the NFL. But before we get to that, as parents, do we do everything we can to set our kids up for our successful future? Do you? Academics, team sports, college admissions, all that. What about getting them started financially before they're out on their own? Fabric makes it easy to set up an investment account for your child that grows with them and helps prepare them for a financial future. Fabric by Gerber Life, it was designed by parents for parents to make it easy to plan for and manage your family's financial path. With a kids investment account from Fabric, you can start investing in your child's future today. While your kids can't invest while they are minors, a UGMA kids investment account allows you to invest on their behalf and gives their investments extra time to grow. And if you've ever invested before, you know that is always very key. It's all online. Setting up an account could take you 5 minutes, and you can get started investing with as little as $1 a day. Then you can just manage your child's account and monitor their investments right from your phone. No contribution limits, multiple tax advantages, SIPC insured up to $500,000 plus, no commission fees, low flat monthly maintenance fee. That's it. Join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to help protect their family. Start investing in your child today at meetfabric.com/PFFNFL, meetfabric.com/PFFNFL, meetfabric.com/PFFNFL. This is a paid promotion for the UGMA product and not investment advisory services. Portfolios are managed by Fort Washington Investment Advisors Incorporated. Custodial services provided by Apex Clearing Corporation. All investing is subject to risk. Terms apply. Learn more at meetfabric.com. Jared Goff and the Detroit Lions offense just put an absolute shellacking on the Jacksonville Jaguars this past week, 52-6. Tough score line if you're a Jacksonville Jaguars fan, but it's great if you're a Lions fan. Jared Goff in this game, 24 for 29. To quote John Gruden, couldn't do that in pregame warm-up. 400 yards, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions after a tough week for him last week against the Houston Texans where he threw 5 interceptions. So a little bit of a roller coaster ride here for Jared Goff over the last couple of weeks. Seth, this is the best offense in the NFL. And a lot of times when we talk about the best offense in the NFL, we're often talking about their quarterback like he's an MVP caliber candidate. Do we feel that way about Jared Goff? Or maybe just a better way to phrase this conversation, because we don't have to get as hot and button with the words MVP. How valuable is Jared Goff? When you watch the Lions offense, how valuable do you think Jared Goff's presence is individually for what the rest of the offense is doing? What do you think about him?
I think my takeaway with Goff and his career is we've seen this. There's stats that there's been studies about how much more leeway a first round pick, and in this case, a first overall pick, gets And what's happened is because we go back to the beginning. He plays under Jeff Fisher year one in St. Louis. They stink. He stinks. All of a sudden, he doesn't stink anymore when they move to LA and Sean McVay becomes the head coach and play caller. Because of his draft status, he's been allowed to get a lot of reps. And he's become so much better than he ever was. The issue with me is like he's never played in a, again, besides that first year, like he's really never played without star talent and star coaching around him. I mean, it's hard to, and it's going to be that way seemingly for the foreseeable future. Like we're just going to always have a hard time separating Jared Goff from his supporting cast. Like we do with every quarterback, but him always feels like it's really stark. And there's a reason he got traded, right? Now, again, he keeps getting playing time. He keeps getting reps and playing time. And he was bad the first year in Detroit, and they had a bad team, and he couldn't elevate that team. And now you're seeing with the best offensive line in the league, with the best running back tandem in the league, with not the best receiving core in the league, but obviously a lot of high-end talent there. Where does he rank in terms of how valuable that on that Lions offense? I have a hard time putting him number one. And like Patrick Mahomes is number one. Justin Herbert's number one. Lamar Jackson's number one. Matthew Stafford's number one. Go down the list. Josh Allen's number one. That's where I have the hard time with Jared Goff, because when things are not on script, we have problems. When there's pressure, which he doesn't get a lot because that offensive line is dominant, where we have problems. Run game, screen game, play action game is so elite on that team that they don't have to do a lot of true straight dropbacks. And he's not been great in those scenarios. He's not great under pressure. He's not great in those scenarios. And that's always going to be the thing. And it goes back to what I was saying. Like, can you win 3 or 4 games in a row against top teams in the playoffs year in, year out with Jared Goff? I don't think so. I don't even think I know people are going to get mad. I just don't think I'm seeing anything crazy here. He doesn't have the elite escapability. He doesn't have the elite arm strength. I do like his arm, but it's not an elite arm. Mm-hmm. And so I just look at it saying like, man, like there's a lot of quarterbacks who would look really, really good in this offense with the supporting cast they have. It is a dominant team. And we also like, with Goff and how good that they've been playing, we tend to forget about the dark spots on the season, which is early in the season he was not playing very well, and then even last week against Texans where he throws a bunch of picks, like we just kind of brushed that over because they win and they had no business winning that game. So not that he didn't play well in spurts in that game, but it's like, man, there's a lot of open guys. There's not a lot of pressure. He's a good quarterback. He's just not a great quarterback.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to say it. Like he's very clearly, I don't want this to be like overly negative on Jared Goff. Like I agree with you. I think he is a good quarterback. And I think Ben Johnson coming back after 2 offseason cycles where he could have got a head coach job elsewhere, I think does speak to Jared Goff. Because if he thought that Jared Goff was a bum, he wouldn't have come back to Detroit. Like even for as much as there's a lot of really great pieces there and they're building they've got a great offensive line and he has a lot of creativity and they're going the right direction. If he thought Jared Goff was truly like going to turn back into a pumpkin, like he was a bum, he wouldn't have come back to Detroit. So I want to make that very clear. Like Jared Goff is obviously a good quarterback, and his mastery and chemistry with Ben Johnson of that offense is, I think, really, really important. Now, there are some things that obviously lend itself to what you are talking about, where there's a reason why we keep him from the top tier or even second tier of quarterbacks in the NFL. So far this season, I mean, you listed some of them, but so far this season, he's 49.8 passing grade under pressure, which is sort of kind of how you can individualize a quarterback's performance, when things aren't going well. That's 26th in the NFL. He is 6th in the league. He has the 6th most turnover-worthy plays when he is pressured. He's 4th in turnover-worthy play versus single coverage. So not even when pressured, but when he has to attack single coverage specifically, he is 4th in turnover-worthy plays. When you look at his wins above average this season metric that we have over at PFF, he is 19th in the NFL. So he's just below half the quarterbacks in the league. I think Jared Goff is good. And I think he's good enough to win a Super Bowl because of how good this Lions offense is around him, how good this Lions defense is, how good the coaching staff is, how good the offensive line is. And I don't think that they would win in spite of Jared Goff. I think they would win a Super Bowl with Jared Goff, but I also don't think that they're winning a Super Bowl because also feels like the wrong word. He's not the biggest piece of that pie, in my opinion, even with him playing the quarterback position. But again, I want to make it very clear. I don't think they're winning in spite of him. I don't think that Ben Johnson would have come back to this team if he was bad, if he believed that Jared Goff was bad. He's a good quarterback. But I think we have a difficult time as a football society letting just good or above average quarterbacks be just good or above average. We either want to talk about them as tier 1 or tier 2 quarterbacks, great quarterbacks in the NFL, or we want to talk about them as completely replaceable. And Jared Goff is exactly in the middle with a really stacked football team. And I think that conversation is tough for people to just be okay with. But that's sort of how I feel about Jared Goff as well.
We can't just be okay with things, right? Like we have to get to the extreme in either direction. I think another thing, I don't even want to talk about Goff. I just want to talk about how good this offense is.
Go ahead.
It is, again, built by an offensive line that when we talk about offensive lines, a lot of times this is the PFF way of talking about offensive lines is often, hey, can we just not have a bunch of bad pieces? We want a great left tackle, but if, left guard, center, right guard, right tackle are shitty players, and it's useless to have that great left tackle. So we just want to have at least everyone being above average. We're okay with that even if we don't have the lead. That's kind of the PFF way of talking about offensive line. What the Detroit Lions have is not only above average all across the board. I mean, they're almost, good to elite at all the positions, really. So you can run the ball as good as anyone's done in a long time. Again, you have 2 really good running backs as well with Montgomery and Gibbs. And what it does is it forces teams to allocate so many damn resources to stopping the run. They're just there are teams where you're like, hey, yeah, they're a good running team, but we can stay in too high with the safeties deep and allow some runs and we'll be okay. And it's you just can't, they'll gash you for, it's not 8-yard gains, not 6-yard gains, like 75-yard touchdown runs when you don't fit it properly, when you don't have enough people in the box. They'll do that when it's one high as well. But what happens is, and this is why Jared Goff's life is a lot easier, is, okay, well, you're going to allocate not only a safety down in the box to make it like an 8-man box or a +1 box. What you're going to do is you're going to play with 5 defensive linemen. You're going to play in that odd front, with 3 defensive linemen, 2 outside linebackers on the line. So 5 guys on the line of scrimmage. And now we're, even if we're not play actioning, which they're great at, even if we're just going to take the drop back against 5 rushing defensive linemen, we have less guys in coverage. And it's not a blitz because they're not coming from different angles and disguising stuff. They're just rushing with the 5 guys who are down, and you knew where they were before the ball was snapped. That's really easy for the O-line, and an O-line, again, that is great at winning one-on-one blocks. So it all leads to Jared Goff having an easier time throwing the football. You're getting quote-unquote blitz because 5 guys are rushing you, but no one's winning a one-on-one. And now you have all this time to throw to a lot of voided space in the zone, and you have good receiver talent. So it all leads into the same thing. And I do think it starts with the run game, whereas it doesn't start with the run game for the Bills, the Chargers. In fact, the Chargers, who are obviously having this great year, The run game goes backwards. like they hand the ball off in 1st and 10, the ball's going backwards. So that is why it's tough because it's all the secondary effects that run game hands a quarterback. And it's always been like that with Jared Goff. So that's kind of where I am with Goff and the Lions offense. It is a dominant offense. They do the thing that you should do to a Jaguars team that has clearly quit, which is score 50 fucking points on them. Like, holy shit, that's crazy. like you're not supposed to do that to an NFL team. And they're doing that. Like they're so good when they can stay ahead of the sticks, when they can get the ground game working, which they pretty much do all the time. Like, and like I said, they can get into a situation where I agree. Like, I think this team can win a Super Bowl. I kind of hope it does win a Super Bowl. I think that would be a great story. I love it. They get the fact that all these great quarterbacks that we talk about play in the other conference. That's the main thing. Like they're not gonna see Herbert, Lamar, or Allen or Mahomes until the Super Bowl, and then it's a one-game situation. And like I said, there's some matchups angles that go in their favor. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's it. Like I love this offense. I think Jared Goff has gotten better and better throughout his career. We don't have to talk about him as an MVP candidate. We don't even have to talk about him as the MVP candidate on his own team. But that doesn't mean this Lions offense isn't going to go and mash people's faces for the rest of the season, and I hope they do.
That's a good way to put it. That's a good way to wrap things up. Appreciate everybody watching this episode of the Quarterback Showcase. For Seth Galina, I'm Trevor Sikkema, saying thanks for watching, and we will see you again at the same time next week. See you guys again.